So it's all to play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast. It's been so long since we've done a podcast that I nearly forgot to say hello as the music finished. I got engrossed in the entrance music as Daddy Longlegs joins us for the podcast tonight. Get away out of it, you. Anyway, we have a different type of Daddy Longlegs. Paddy is here.
Daddy
Longlegs.
Daddy short legs.
Daddy short. I'm definitely a Daddy short legs as well. Yeah. Paddy, how are things with you?
I'm okay. I'm feeling Friday, and it was a long week and missing football, so it's refreshing to be looking forward to a Villa game than looking forward to another international match that's going to depress me. So happy days that we Villa to look forward to, and plus we don't have to start off the weekend by them playing on a Friday night and ruin the weekend. We can wait till 4:30 on a Sunday for them to ruin it. So we're trying to look at all the positives first, get it out of the way.
Exactly. The hopes and dreams are usually well and truly tarnished by 4:30 on a Sunday anyway, most Sundays. So it's what will Villa do? Villa can't make me any lower than 4:30 on a Sunday anyway. But I suppose, Paddy, the last time that Villa played on a Friday night, though, it was fruitful, obviously, against Southampton, albeit that the game was dull as dishwater, so I'd say a lot of people, that we did get the points. And I think there's very much so going away to Leeds, going away to Ellen Road, in a fixture that throws up some bonkers results and just wall-to-wall play. I've had a chance to sleep on what I said on a Leeds podcast last night, and I was kind of predicting more of the same because of the injuries that we have. But the more I think about it, the more I think we're going to go there and we're going to try our best to grind something out. And I think Steven Gerrard more or less said the same thing in the press conference today. What do you think, Paddy?
You just don't know what you're going to get with Leeds. They've been inconsistent again this season. Plus, when Sunday rocks around, it'll be 29 days since they played a game. So there's loads of ways of looking at that. Those players, the likes of Bamford and those who were injured, have had a lot of recovery time and a little mini pre-season in those 4 weeks. Us ourselves will be 16 days since we last played. We didn't have a whole lot of players on international duty, so some of the players got a break the week before last and then back into training this week. So it's going to be an interesting one. I think it would be a good gauge of where we're at with what we have, because we know we're going to be without our two main boys that we signed in the summer. So that makes me a little bit apprehensive. But as you know, since that Bournemouth game, I've been apprehensive every week because I just don't know what Villa are going to turn up. So I'm not expecting anything pretty. I'm expecting a nervous, cagey affair where we'll probably defend and hit them on the break if we can.
Got him. The Daddy Longlegs is no more. Sorry, Paddy. But I'm going to be honest with you. I missed the last two sentences you said there. I was concentrating on homicide of an insect there. So
yeah. Well, what I was basically saying was I expected a cagey affair where we'll start off fairly defensive and try and hit them on the break with the pace that we have in the likes of Leon Bailey and whatever. So it'll all come down to how he sets up the team. We more than likely may see Dendoncker in there. Don't think we'll see Bednarak if Konza is fit, given that he had two games. So I don't know. Where do you want to start?
I'm going to leave the back four for a moment because I think I want to have a big discussion on that, because I think there's a lot of permutations in there with with X, Y, and Z that has gone on since we've last spoken. What I was going to do is I was going to talk about that midfield area. And I think that midfield area is always going to be a standalone kind of an area. There's been a lot of talk about John McGinn going away with Scotland and, Obviously he scored that goal against Ukraine, and I had a different opinion of him against Ireland. A lot of people said he ran the show against Ireland. I didn't think he did. I think he was very Villa-esque, John McGinn, against Ireland. But obviously Scotland came out the right end of the result on that. Being a pragmatist, we're not going to see him in the number 10 role. Whether we should or not is a different question, but we're not going to see him in the number 10 role. And I think
we discussed this before, and I don't know whether I explained the point well. I just think that we're doing him an injustice playing him in the position he's in. I watched him against Ukraine. I thought he was incredible. I thought he bossed that game.
Yeah, he was good.
Ireland's defensive setup without the ball probably led to him not seeing as much of the ball as you would expect in international football. So I wouldn't be too critical of anybody playing against that Ireland team when they're defending the way they are. So, and Ireland were good for the opening 35 minutes until they decided to stop playing. So they were on the back foot for the rest of that time. But look, they got their win. He got his goal against the Ukraine. You're never going to hear a bad word about John McGinn from me. Other than when
favorite in your house
does stupid things and gives the ball away and stuff like that. So it's you know my opinion on it. I think we should be starting him in a more advanced role. We're not going to see that without Boubacar Kamara. I don't believe we might not see it ever under Steven Gerrard.
I don't think we'll see it ever under Steven. Yeah. I don't think we see it ever even under Pochettino when somebody comes in, because I'd like
Pochettino coming in, is he?
Breaking news. Yeah, put that one on the front page. Or somebody like Pochettino.
I think the next Villa manager will be Graham Potter, because he'd be gone from Chelsea in 3 months the way they could turn over managers if he doesn't get results. Anyway, that's.
But I think that midfield. I think we will see Leandro Dendoncker come into that midfield. Didn't get a run out for Belgium. Now, the reason for that, there was a lot of conjecture online, people saying that maybe he had gotten injured for Belgium. Essentially what happened, it was just Martinez wanted to play some youth to see what he has for probably the upcoming World Cup. Nations League for them was not a priority, it seemed. Or, I think Martinez probably has this World Cup. I think he might get the heave-ho after this, because he has had probably the best generation of Belgian players ever, and there are some criticisms of him from the Belgian media, even though he has a ridiculously good win record. It just when he gets down to the crunch, he can't do a Southgate and get past quarterfinals, get into semi-finals, and even get into finals as well. And mad and all as it sounds to be able to say that Gareth Southgate has been able to do that, considering once again obviously the negative media reaction towards Gareth Southgate, which I agree with. It's quite like, put it this way, Belgium probably man for man have as good, if not a better team than England at the moment. They just can't get over the hump in any of those, and England were that way maybe 4 or 5 years ago before Southgate came in. Who would have thought that Southgate would have got him over that hump, but would have played absolutely dreadful football at times as well. Anyway, I need to shut up. I'm digging a hole here for myself. Stop talking about Gareth Southgate. I don't have an opinion on it, everybody. I don't have an opinion on it, okay? I'm not allowed to have an opinion on it. I'm from Ireland, not allowed to have an opinion, okay? But yeah, so that midfield, I think the Donker comes into that midfield, and I'm not 100% sure whether he goes gung-ho in midfield. McGinn is going to start, and I think he goes with Douglas Luiz. I don't know what has happened with the Villa PR machine at the moment, but they just seem to not be able to do anything other than put Alicia Lehman and Douglas Luiz all over everything at the minute. It seems like it's they're trying to catch lightning in a bottle with that one. And for me, I probably think that Douglas Luiz will get the start at the weekend as well, with Dendoncker, with McGinn, and we'll go a bit more compact in midfield. And we will actually use our width up top with probably Coutinho and Bailey and Watkins, I would imagine, is who they're going to play up top.
Just before you gloss over the fact that we're using Douglas Luiz and Alicia Lehman, I have no problem with that. There was a lot of people giving out about it. It's they're our posh and Becks, so you use them to highlight the club as much as you like. Plus, keep Douglas Luiz happy, keep him centre of attention, and hope that he signs a contract, because we've fucked up everything else for him at this stage. So to let him to get to the start, to kick off this season without a new contract is absolutely unforgivable. But we'll come back to that when he eventually makes up his decision. But yes, I totally agree that Luiz should play probably alongside Dendoncker as opposed to on his own.
Yeah, and McGinn in there as well, and maybe that's the opportunity to play McGinn as a 10 if you like, give him that more freer role while you've got those two guys, because the Donker is going to be more of a holder than Kamara was anyway. And we could see Kamara getting further forward. Then Donker just doesn't. He is, you know, he is a definitive defensive midfielder in there. He offers a bit of a bigger body than anyone we've had in there, which is something I think will suit us against Leeds as well. Like, it's mad the way that the lot of the stuff about John McGinn has calmed down after. Like, he was public enemy number one over the Alfie Gray stuff at the start of the season. You know, and now we're playing Leeds again. There hasn't been a whisper of it, which I think just kind of goes to show there was a bit of an overreaction to it at the time. Probably from both sides, maybe, you know, from both sides of the aisle in that one. But look, I think looking back at it, it was a tackle. He went over the top. It was fine, but the kid wasn't injured, and you know, we shake hands and we move on afterwards.
There's nothing in it. No. I think there's a narrative there that wants there to be a bit of needle in this fixture because of what's happened in the past.
Yeah.
But like, we're not that type of club, really. You know, we're not.
No,
we're not a dirty Leeds. You know, we don't pride ourselves on being public enemy number one in by any stretch of the imagination. So unless a bit of nastiness comes in there, it's never going to be the case.
No, I have campaigned for that in the past. I've campaigned for us to just get complete another, like, our away strip should be like a camo jersey, and we should go out there and we should just be real nasty and kick people up in the air like the old crazy gang. There was a time when I was canvassing for that towards the end of last year and at the start of this year. But yeah, I was saying that in jest. But it is nice to have a couple of nasty fellas in the team as well. As we said before, Carlos was that man who came in, that bit of an enforcer. I think then Donker can be an enforcer inside there as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, that would be interesting. Now, Paddy, I think before we go back to the back four, because I think there's a big discussion to be had about the back four, because of for obvious reasons, there's a lot of people missing. We do have there are some choice statistics with regards to this game, and they come to you in association with the wonderful AVFC Stato, who you will be able to find on Twitter at AVFC Stato, ironically enough. And we play this in a segment that we like to call Stato Corner. And here we go. That everybody was looking forward to that entrance music, weren't you? Or I certainly was anyway. So Stato, thank you so much for giving us some statistics on this game today. A lot of these revolve around goals, games won and stuff like that. And we have a really interesting one about Jacob Ramsey as well today. So I really appreciate the work that you put in as well, AVFC Stato, for this. So the first one we have here is Leeds have won just one of their last 10 Premier League home games against Aston Villa. Drawing 4 against Aston Villa, drawing 4 and losing 5, and a 3-1 victory in the final day of the 2002-2003 campaign was their last win at home in the Premier League, which is a mad statistic, I think, given that every team seems to beat us at home recently. But I suppose obviously with Leeds being out of the league for so long, and us having our séjour from the league as well, this is strictly a Premier League statistic. Next one here is Aston Villa have won their last 2 away league games against Leeds, as many as they had in their previous 17 visits to Elland Road, where they drew 9 and lost 6. They have never won 3 in a row away at Leeds before.
Interesting.
So, there you go. But history is there to be broken, isn't it? No,
of course.
Records are there to be broken.
Records are there to be smashed. Yep.
Exactly. Leeds conceded 5 goals in their last league game against Brentford, where they lost 5-2, as many goals as they conceded in their first 5 games of the 2022-2023 season. And indeed, since returning to the Premier League in 2020, Leeds have shipped 5+ goals in more different top-flight games than any other side. So they've shipped over 5 goals 5 times since they've returned to the top flight. So that's an interesting one as well. I don't expect us to score 5 goals against anyone this season. I certainly don't expect us to score 5 goals against Leeds. But you know, I think it's like last season we saw it as well. You know, we could score freely against Leeds, and this specifically the second game we won 3-0. Jesse Marsh's second game in charge. I think that was the 3-0, and yeah, as I say, they were only getting into their pomp at that stage of trying to figure out. He was trying to figure out the team as well. So I don't expect us there. Obviously, don't expect us to go and steamroll anyone in the form we're in at the moment. But I do expect our form to have improved from prior to the international break as well. Only Brentford have scored more goals from high turnovers in the Premier League this season than Leeds. Although only Liverpool and Manchester, why can't I speak? Manchester City have had fewer high turnovers against them than Aston Villa. So Aston Villa aren't turning over the ball in high positions, i.e. they aren't turning over the ball in their defence an awful lot this season. We've the third least amount of turnovers from our defense this season, which is good. So we kind of counteract each other in that one. And that isn't, you know, if you were to ask me about that statistic, that doesn't come across to the naked eye when you're looking at games. It doesn't come across that I would just assumed we were losing the ball more than the majority of teams, specifically in our back four. But it goes to show how bad our passing in midfield has been. And we've spoken about John McGinn, and I think he's probably one of the people who has probably given away the ball the most, I would say, in the Premier League as well this season, which is something that can be fixed. It can be fixed, so yeah. Hopefully it is.
Just on that stat, the one thing that Leeds do differently this season, they were always a very high pressing team, but it was man for man. This season, it seems to be a doubling up on the player with the ball, and that's probably why you're seeing that high rate of turnover. I've only seen, I might have seen 3 games actually. And that just appears to be the way that, you know, if we're playing the ball out from the back, you can expect 2 of them to go and close down full backs if they're on the ball. And if you watch that closely, they do it a lot. And those 2 will move across to the centre half if the ball goes to the centre half. It's actually incredible to watch, and it takes an awful lot of energy. So they're a very fit team, as they always have been under Bielsa. But obviously, there's a big change in personnel there now as well.
Well, they've even brought in players that are known for energetic and athleticism as well, and we'll get onto that. We'll talk about Leeds as well in a moment when we do talk about that, specifically Aronson and Tyler Adams. They're in midfield. And lastly, Aston Villa's Jacob Ramsey netted the winner in their last league game against Southampton in the 1-0 win, taking his goal involvements tally to 9 in the Premier League. Should he score or assist against Leeds, he will be the youngest player for Villa at 21 years and 127 days to record 10 goal involvements in the Premier League since Gabriel Agbonlahor did it in April 2007 at 20 years and 171 days. And Jacob Ramsey will become the 4th youngest for the club overall to reach 10 goal involvements. There you go. That's a little one about Jacob Ramsey. And once again, if you were to put a gun to my head and tell me that Gabriel Agbonlahor had reached that number before his 21st birthday, I would have said not a hope. I would have said not a hope. But not that, like, I just always assumed that he was being played out wide so much at the start, with John Carew and himself and Luke Moore were being played either side. And I just have, you know, the memory fades, and I kind of think that there was that first season under Martin O'Neill that they weren't as involved, and then when he went up top on his own with John Carew, that the goals started to flow for him. But yeah, as I say, that's an interesting stat. Thank you so much, Dave FC Stato, for these. Really appreciate it. He actually sent me out about 15 statistics about the game, but we could only fit in 5 or 6 into the podcast tonight. But I do appreciate you sending these on, Stato, and we will be back next week with more statistics from the wonderful man himself in our segment that we call Stat. I just love playing that jingle. I love. You're
very quick on the trigger there. You even cut yourself off.
So, Paddy, our back four is going to, obviously, it's like we're on TV, so it's going to draw the attention of, it's going to draw the attention of everybody. because of the people who are going to be missing. Both fullbacks are going to be missing.
Yeah.
Matty Cash still isn't back in full training yet. And we obviously have the situation whereby Luca Dini came back from, or didn't even get to go to international duty because of stress fracture in his ankle. Thankfully, it doesn't seem to be as bad as first feared, but still we will be without him. Paddy Kelly's picking the team this morning.
Have we been told, just before you go on, Gerard mentioned it was a heel issue today?
Yeah, you can still have a stress fracture in your heel.
Yeah.
You can still have, you can still break. There's bones in there that you can fracture too. So maybe I'm thinking it was L'Équipe that had this breaking. I'm thinking it was
maybe. Well, whatever it is, we can only trust our manager to be telling the truth that it's a heel issue. It's a heel issue. It's a heel issue. There was no real time.
Really.
There was no real time put on it. It was a case of they have to manage it. So, just didn't want to let you gloss over that, because he did give conflicting report to what had been previously reported by whoever. So, Paddy Kelly's picking the back four. I think this is the easiest selection of all our team. I don't think it'll be anyway contentious. I think Ashley Young continues at right back, Konza and Mings in the middle, and I would be absolutely bowled over if we don't see Ludvig Augustinsson after his 90 minutes for Sweden in midweek lining out for us on Sunday. And let's face it, I would be shocked if it was any other way.
Yeah, I have to believe exactly the same, but there has been a counter narrative, and the reason I wanted to bring this up and have a conversation on it is the counter narrative is that, you bring in somebody like Jan Bednarek. Konza has been played at right back, and he was played at right back in the League Cup fixture this season as well against Bolton. He did play some minutes at right back there. And the counter narrative has been that, you bring in Bednarek, do you go taller and stronger in the centre half position? Do you move Konza out there right back, and do you move Ashley Young to left back? And for me, I think that's a ton of movement, specifically when you've got a Swedish international that another bloody thing is after coming in the window. Especially when you've got a Swedish international on the bench that is playing at left back, is a natural left back, and has played at left back all his life. So for me, I'm very much, as I say, I'm very much that old traditionalist of play the person in his position that he's played all his life, and and if you need to move people around afterwards because of injury or whatever, move them then. But no, for me, I would be of the same opinion as you. I think Konza probably deserves that run in centre half again after his performance against Man City and against Southampton.
Yeah.
But I'd still have him on a short leash, because I do think that Bednarek is as good, if not a better defender than Konza. I know that's probably Marmite to a lot of people, given the reaction when Bednarek signed, but I'm willing to persevere with Konza, and as I say, if he gets back his 2021 form, his 2020-2021 form, then I'll be absolutely delighted. It's just the start of the season I didn't see that, but obviously you begin to see glimmers of it again over the last two games. So I think, but do you think there was something mad there? Like, even when you look at who scored, look at the suggested lineups and who scored. Like, they've Chambers at right back, and they've Ashley Young at left back. I certainly can't see them playing Chambers at right back against this Leeds team. Not a hope. Given how he turned in midfield last season when they played him in midfield in that one game last season, I don't think that they play him right back.
I can't see it being any other way. I also must go back and say, you just said it was me picking the team. If I was picking the team, I would have Bednarek and Konza in there in a three in the back four. But that's only if we have Cash and Dean fit. Yeah. But that's just my take on how we play the game going forward. But for now, it's that back four, and I think that's the easiest positions to pick on the team, because literally anything can happen going forward past the midfield. I'd be picking names out of a hat to decide what he's going to do on any given day with the attacking part of the midfield. I think he'll play Dendonker. I think he'll play Douglas Luiz, but after that, who knows? Yeah,
and I think you play Augustinsson, Yeah, I think.
Well, I'd be very surprised. The fact that he got 90 minutes the other night in a decent contest against Slovakia, was it? Slovakia or Slovenia? I can't remember. But he got the full 90 minutes, so he's ready. I've no doubt in my mind he's ready, and he'll be up to match pace to play.
And this guy was playing with Sevilla last season. Like he played 20, I think it was 23 odd games for Sevilla last season. Played in European competition for Sevilla as well last
He's no
season.
mug.
No, he's absolutely not a mug. No way,
Yeah.
no way at all.
No, bear in mind, and we'll get onto the Leeds team in a minute. They have a guy potentially, if he's fit, Christensen, going to play right back, and he's completely raw to the Premier League. He's all over the bloody place. I hope he is playing. I hope they are still trying to blood him in against us. But
fingers crossed, what himself and Firpo play. Fingers crossed, Junior Firpo plays. Junior Firpo.
Put the bet on Firpo for the first yellow card again.
Last year it was like a cash machine. Putting a bet on Junior Firpo to get booked at any time was just like having your own access to your own free bank is what it was. So hopefully he's there again. Christensen,
and that's just a comparison I'm making with Augustinsson, because it won't be a seamless transition to play international football into this. He'll have the minutes in the leg, and that will help. But it's a completely different game to the Spanish game. It's a completely different game to Champions League football, and it's definitely a completely different game to international football. So it's a big step up. It'll be a big step up in pace, and I, for one, would be annoyed if it's anyone else at left back.
Yeah, I wouldn't go as far as say I'd be annoyed. I'd be looking for answers. I think is the way I'd put it. I'd be looking for him to explain why if he didn't play a left back at left back, to be honest with you. Specifically when he was brought in to be that cover for Dina.
Yeah.
Just to me, it wouldn't sit right when Kane Kessler Hayden goes out. Then Young assumed that position as the right back cover, and he would be the right back cover, and it would show that the plan at the start of the season is now being enacted. The plan B, should I say, is being enacted. But look, as I say, we won't know until we look at the team sheet tantrum on Saturday and Sunday, should I say, and we see who has been picked and who hasn't been picked. Looking at the Leeds team, Paddy, we obviously are a good friend and just a real stand-up guy, and one of those guys that never ever kind of winds up any of the Aston Villa players is back this season. Mr. Patrick Bamford is back, and he is liable to start or likely to start up front. As I say, he himself and Mings do have this ongoing saga every year whereby he tries to get in Mings' head, and sometimes he gets the better of him and sometimes he doesn't. And hopefully it's going to be, with Mings not having the pressures of the captaincy on him, that Mings is going to come out on top in that game as well. But I think the real area that we're going to have to look for these guys is the next five behind him in front of their back four, because you mentioned effort. The effort that these potential five players of Jack Harrison, Aronson, Sinistera, Adams and Click give is just phenomenal. Like, any one of those players on their own is a raw athlete that can get around the field at pace and has a serious engine. But they've got five of them in there in midfield, and that is, to me, is their strength. And it was their strength under Bielsa, and Jesse Marsh has still harnessed that yet in a different way. Yeah,
there's plenty there, and you've left out Mark Rocca in there, who has also contributed to goals this season. So there's a number of combinations that he can pick there. Did you mention Gelhardt?
Gelhardt on the bench, I would imagine.
Yeah, but it can also play in one of those three in behind the striker as well. So there's a lot of play here. I think he could come up with any different combination in that. We'll call them the front five or the front six, whatever it turns out to be. And you've also got the other thing is that I think Jesse Marsh is suspended. He got a red card the last day against Brentford, so I would imagine he's not going to be on the sideline. Whether that's a good thing or not, I don't know. He's obviously going to have input in the team, and he's probably on the phone telling them what to do or whatever. So we won't read too much into that. But I'm not expecting any favourites from Leeds or Jesse Marsh in his team selection. I think he'll put the best possible team out, albeit that right back. I'm hoping it's Christensen over Ayling, who's also just back from an injury as well. So I think that's the area we can get at them. It's unfortunate we don't play Leon Bailey off the left, because I think he'll get an awful lot of change off Christensen if he's there.
Well, Coutinho did butter Leeds bread down that side last season. You know,
He
he
did.
did, and he
Yeah.
got a lot of coming in off that side, and himself and Ramsey interchanging there on that side.
Mhm. Yeah.
Was very profitable. And afterwards, I remember coming towards the end of the game, you could see, and Luke Ayling is a great guy. I've never going to have a bad word to say about him. He comes across as a really great guy and everything. You could just see he had a little kick at Coutinho, and then you could see in his face, he was like, he had that kind of fuck you, you're after giving me the runaround kind of face on him afterwards. It was a playful kick, I'll say, more so than anything else.
Mhm.
But it's and he did. They did kind of target that right back position in the 3-0 last season as well. But it's a completely different game, completely different
Yeah.
teams in completely different form and different mindsets that they have now at the moment. Do you think? I know we mentioned it previously, and I said it, and we may have just glossed over it. Do you think Coutinho starts in that wide left role? Do you think like he did against Southampton?
I think he does, because I think Southampton was probably his best game so far this season. I think he was roiled up after being left out of the Brazilian national team.
Mm.
He did have a good influence on the game, so I don't see any change in that department. But then again, he has left him out when you haven't expected to leave him out in the past. So, the world according to Gerrard might be completely different, but I can't see any difference there. I think it'll be Bailey off the right and him off the left.
Of Leeds signings I mentioned previously, that midfield area and that five behind the striker, whether it be Bamford or whether it be if Rodrigo is able to return, who's in some good goal scoring form this season. The two additions they've made there, the two American additions they've made, Tyler Adams, who's somebody I was really high on. I had a scouting piece done on Tyler Adams. I would have loved for him to come into Aston Villa. His versatility is amazing, where he can play 8, 6. He can even play centre half. He can play right back. He's just he's just a versatile player who's got a really good skill set, and his skill set kind of suits those positions. He's not a fancy Dan in any way, shape, or form. He's very, very athletic. Really like him. He's probably slated to start in that double pivot with Click, I would imagine, at the weekend. And then obviously Brendan Aronson, somebody that they've been chasing and spent the bones of 30 million on. He's come in, and he's been somebody that's buzzed around like a blue arse fly around the field as well. He gets around the place, and he's a good player, and he's had a really good start to the season so far. Anybody else that you'd be fearing in that team as well, Paddy?
Oh, well, just to reiterate, I'm fearing those two. They look like decent players. One from Red Bull Salzburg and one from Red Bull Leipzig. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct. Adams from Leipzig. Adams from Salzburg and Aronson from Leipzig, if I'm not mistaken.
So they were playing at a reasonable high level, despite that Adamson I think he's only 20 years of age. Adams a little bit older. He's about 24, 25. Look, they have. I think the game is coming too soon for Rodrigo. I think he's going to miss out. I'm hoping he'll miss out because he's a decent player. And you look, whatever combination they throw at us is going to give us trouble. I'm pretty sure of that. As I said to you before about that double press, with pressing the player on the ball all the time, that's going to be really interesting, given the fact that in the past we have been poor at passing the ball around at the back and have made the odd error. So there's a lot to look at there. Konza hasn't been great with his feet this season. Mings has that mistake in him. So I think the first 10-15 minutes of watching that press is going to be really, really interesting. And I hope I'm not looking at it through my fingers.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. As is almost becoming the catchphrase for this podcast, we won't really know how good what this team has actually been told to do until 15 minutes into the game, which is definitely a negative for fans, and to be honest with you, it must be a negative for players as well, because if you can only come out and be game planned for 15 minutes and then everything falls apart, which is stuff that we've said about Steven Gerrard in the past, his in-game management after the first 10-15 minutes has been woeful since he's been with the club. So let's hope that the last 2 weeks has given him food for thought and a premise to be able to game plan for the full 90 minutes against Leeds, because as I say, you know what you're getting with Leeds. It's hard to counteract, but teams have been. Brentford found a way to do it. I would hope Aston Villa have been able to find a way to do it as well. Paddy, we're going to move on from the Leeds stuff for a moment, just for a minute, because Christian Purslow met with the Supporters Trust, the Aston Villa Trust, recently. What was your views on that? I only read what I read in the Birmingham Mail. and I think they got the best snippets of it. But I'm probably going to be in the minority, and I think Christian Purslow probably called it fair enough in what he said. It's not what I wanted to hear, but it's probably fair enough in what he said with regards to how he felt the season has gone so far. Nobody saw the result against Bournemouth. You can't legislate for the two injuries that we've had to the two new signings, and we ended up basically Kamara got injured after deadline day, and we'd signed someone to replace Carlos, and then we'd signed someone to play alongside Kamara. And when that happens, you just have to kind of put your hand up and say, sometimes your luck's out for a period of time. But I think his most interesting thing, Paddy, was when he said that he's expecting results in the next 9 games, which conveniently brings it to the World Cup. He expects them to improve. And that to me was a thinly veiled shot across the bow of Steven Gerrard's. That's my controversial piece. Because I think a lot of people will say that was just speak from Christian Purslow, and he's no interest in doing it. But I think it was.
I've said all along that he'll get as far as the World Cup, and that's when the decision will be made. So while I know that Christian Purslow probably has to say that anyway, because he knows there's discontent. Sure, here, look, you're looking at one here that's very discontented with what's going on. So, it's something I wanted to hear, because there has to be a bit. And in fairness to Gerrard, whatever game in particular, I'm going to go back before Man City when he came out and said he was under pressure. So he knows himself this is a results business, that if the results don't come, like, there's an awful lot of play here. We need to be attracting players to this club. We don't attract players in the position we're currently in. The results need to come in the next 9 games. We need to be going into a January transfer window knowing who we have to replace or who we have to ship out. And while I'm not thoroughly convinced with Gerrard, I don't want us to go losing games just so we can get rid of him. I want us to win games. I want us to build a legacy here. He wasn't my first choice. He still hasn't won me over. But by all means, I want him to do well. I want every manager to do well until the time comes where I go, I just can't take any more of this, which obviously has happened in the past. So, look, big games ahead, huge games ahead, winnable games ahead. Sunday's a winnable game. It'll be tough. Then we've got the likes of Forest. Then we go into Chelsea, Brentford. Games that you probably have, with the exception of Forest, there's a little bit of trepidation there whether you're predicting, that we go and win it or you'd be happy with a point or whatever. So there is a lot of play with that, but I was okay with what he said. I think he protected the players and the manager, but yet told the fans what they wanted to hear too. I don't think it helps as well when the previous date that he had for that meeting had to be pushed back the bones of a month. I think it was. I think it was the 5th of September or something it was supposed to be on, and it only happened here the 30th of September. I don't know, maybe I just wasn't all over the news, but I don't think there was ever a reason given as to why it was moved or whatever, what the situation was. But it was cancelled very, very late as well.
Like less than 48 hours notice, I think it was cancelled. And I think it was coming up to around transfer deadline time, and it was people were kind of saying that, maybe he's hiding because because Villa aren't signing anyone. He doesn't want to be in that position to have to speak about it. But I don't know what the situation was. Obviously, we did sign people, and rumours were that we were trying to sign more people on deadline day as well, and we just couldn't get them over the line, and we were trying to ship people out, and we just couldn't get that stuff over the line as well. But he did mention that they wanted to ship people out, and they maybe couldn't get as many people out as they wanted to. And look, I suppose there is a juggling act in with regards to that as well. We're not in a position as a club to stockpile players like the likes of Chelsea and Man City are, because we just can't do it. We can't afford it. Can't afford to do it. And it just breeds contempt, as we're seeing as well with some players, management, players, whatever. I don't know what the stories are, and I'm not going to take anyone's side in any of those. I've come out with Sanson, Gilbert previously before, good players, but if we're not seeing them in the jersey for Aston Villa, sorry, but I'm not going to worry about them too much, because there's obviously reasons on both sides as to why they're not in there too. And that's not me sitting on the fence. It's just a fact of life. Somebody needs to be a bigger man somewhere along the line. And look, as I say, if we see him in the team again, I clap him every day of the week. I'd love to see Freddie Gilbert line out at right back tomorrow. Love to see Morgan Sanson on the bench, and I think we will see Morgan Sanson on the bench. I think we might even see Freddie Gilbert on the bench. Who knows? But as I say, until we start seeing stuff like that, I'm not here for the Desperate Housewives version of Aston Villa. I'm here to see Aston Villa go out and play football. And I've just been very open and honest about that, I think, since I started this podcast.
And look, there was a bit to take from that meeting as well. Obviously, he talked about he did a bit of lobbying with the government over the infrastructure around Villa Park during the week. With the railway and what have you. You would think we'd have the fact that we've given. Someone will have to help me here. What's the name of that high speed train?
HH2, Paddy.
HH2. That's going through our training ground. So I know there's probably a compulsory purchase order there or whatever it is, but surely we have a bit of cash in the bank there that we can go and say, can you look after it?
Until there's an actual steel track on that land, Paddy, I don't know. I don't know.
Well, it's happening anyway.
Sorry.
Yeah, it is happening. So, and there's a compulsory purchase order apparently on part of Bodymore Heath. So, I would be using that to our advantage to go and lobby for better facilities at Aston and Witten Station, that we can get people in and out and widen the tracks and have trains sitting in the station. And there's a whole lot of things that can be done. But that's a story for another day. But he did mention that. He also mentioned the provision for safe standing, which concerned me a little bit, because I would imagine it's probably going to go through my season ticket because that's where it was earmarked for before. So, bring it on. What's it? 1.8 people for one person. So that will bring the capacity up over to 60,000 as time goes on.
Yeah, as time goes on.
Yeah. So look, we're not getting 60,000 people in the door unless we're winning games and we're competing at the top level here. Newcastle, I think, are the only exception to the rule that if you're not playing well, a stadium of that size just isn't selling out. It's a way of life up there. The stadiums in the city centre, they've got absolutely everything going for it, so they sell out no matter what, or near enough sell out. We would struggle if we're sitting 15th, 16th in the league, playing a poor brand of football. We're going to struggle to sell out the 50,000 that we're expected to get to, let alone heading up for the 60,000 when we go to safe standing.
Yeah, but I think with Stadia, obviously they're looking at the off season. There'll probably be Bruce Springsteen will be there 3 nights. Whatever, so they're looking at that as well. That capacity is capacity, corporate is corporate as well, and there's money comes in through there as well. But look, as I say, you're better looking at, as the father always says, you're better looking at it than looking for it. So it's plan for that day when it's not going to rain and that everybody wants to come in at the same time. And I think that's probably where we should go at the moment. I think
Ad says there, I'm a bit annoyed we are waiting for other clubs to trial safe standing. I feel we should be involved in it. I beg to differ, Ad, because we were one of the first to mention it and to go for it.
Randy Lerner brought it up years ago, yeah.
But I think we just have other priorities in getting that North Stand sorted out first. That Spurs away section is set up for safe standing. You've got that bar in front of you, but you've also got a seat. So that will come in time as well. So it was interesting to see it. I've experienced it at Celtic Park. The noise that comes from safe standing is incredible. So I'm looking forward to it. I really hope it's done sooner rather than later. I'm worried that I'm getting a bit older and I don't want it to be going through my season ticket and I have to stand in it. But look, I stand there anyway, because if I'm not standing there behind the goal, I'm not watching the game because everybody's standing up anyway.
Exactly. Yeah. So in other words, Paddy, stop giving out.
That's what we're here for, Neil.
That's what we're here for. Yeah, that's what we're here for.
That's what I signed up here for. So we can give out now.
You were very open and honest about you needing to have an opportunity to vent at every given occasion. So that is true. I think that's really going to do it for tonight, guys. We're going to be back again with a team sheet tantrum. Actually, before I do go, Michael Huggins makes a great point here. Is quick word on the women's team. Women's team have had a superb start to the season so far. I know it's only early days, but that comeback win against Manchester City is stuff of legend, and it should be stuff of legend in and around Villa Park, for that women's team. And then obviously to go and back it up with a win against Leicester as well.
Yeah.
Like pushing for attendance there as well. The club are doing some really good stuff with that team. They've signed some really good players. I mentioned it before. There is a podcast out there. The Aston Villa Women's Supporters Club have a podcast out there at AVWSC. You'll find it on Twitter. I don't have the handle here. If you are interested in the women's game as well, give them a shout. Give them a listen. I found it very, very good. I found it informative. I only know some of the names in passing, to be honest with you. I'm not an aficionado yet. I plan to become an aficionado in that. And as I say, why not? Why not support the female side of the game as well? English
and
football.
while it wasn't a classic at the weekend, the ground out a 2-0 win over Leicester. Our strikers that have been critical in the past, like Gelnick, got a goal.
Yeah.
So there's players around helping these players, and it can only go.
And the squad as well, like we're missing Rusha Littlejohn, who we know here from the Irish team, Simone McGill, who was a big signing that they made from Northern Ireland as well.
Yeah.
Another striker, another attacking player as well, did her cruciate. They're two very high profile players. They obviously brought in the likes of Rachel Daly. Is it Rachel Daly? Is that her name? Am I mixing up? Rachel Daly from Houston Dash, as well. As I say, I'm not going to sit here and try and gaslight everybody into thinking that I know know all about the women's game, but I'm bloody looking forward to learning about it. As I say, let's go on this journey together, because some of the names I do remember, I do understand, and they do ring a bell. So I'm finding it interesting following them, and I hope you guys do too, because it is, as I say, English women's football is on the crest of a wave for obvious reasons at the moment, and why not have Aston Villa at the top of that game as well, and thriving within the women's game too.
Absolutely.
Right, that's going to do it for us tonight, guys. Thanks so much, everybody, and girls. Thanks so much, everybody, for listening. We'll be back with a team sheet tantrum at 3:20 on this coming Sunday, the 2nd of October. I think it is. It is the 2nd of October. 3:20 team sheet tantrum before the Leeds game. We hope to see you all there. Have a fantastic Friday. Stay safe, stay healthy, and all that's left to say is up the Villa.
Up the Villa.